The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
What's up, good movie lovers? Welcome to Movie Night. Today we're going to be continuing our look at the Terminator franchise with Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. This is from 2003, so it's just about 7 years old. And really, it marks the beginning of the end for the quality in terms of the franchise. Now, Salvation just was released on DVD a few weeks back, so that will be the next movie night, so we can complete our look at this. But for now, let's focus on this debacle, the first Terminator movie without James Cameron behind it, and it obviously shows. So I have the DVD version, and I'll be pressing play in just a moment. If you haven't listened to a movie night with the movie preview critic before, that's kind of weird that I'm referring to myself in the third person, but if you haven't done that before, it's basically just a poor man's audio commentary. You play the movie along with me and sync up the audio. And throughout, I'll just be mentioning here and there where I am in terms of the story, talking about the scene, and marking that with the running time. Overall, it's not important that we stay in sync in terms of what I'm discussing and what you're seeing. I'm going to be going off on different topics and sort of doing just a stream of consciousness commentary for the most part on what's happening and what's developing scene by scene, because I'm very interested in the story structure of the film. So I have a screenwriting background and I really want to pick it apart. But of course, there will be ideas and topics that'll come up, from Arnold Schwarzenegger as the actor and soon to be governor to Jonathan Mostow, the director who took over, and why Edward Furlong wasn't back as John Connor. So whatever topic emerges, let's just go with it. Overall, I will try to focus more on the story, because for me, this really is the point at which the Terminator movies started to become pretty depressing. The quality really dropped off. So go ahead and put your DVD or Blu-ray in the player. Press the play button. I am about 14 seconds into the movie and the Warner Brothers logo has just presented itself for us. And now there's a big ocean wave coming at us, and I don't recognize this company's logo. This is Intermedia. Okay, so about 35 seconds into the movie. So let's just start talking about this. 2003, there is a decision made that a new Terminator movie has to hit the big screen. And why is that? Because since 2000, the franchise tentpole mentality is starting to come into focus. Really, this is kicked off with the X-Men movie and The Lord of the Rings. Those two franchises will be a series of 3 films each, and they'll make a lot of money. The X-Men movies have made about $1 billion, a little bit over combined, and Lord of the Rings combined has made about $2 billion worldwide. So having profit like that, having a franchise, a reliable product that you as an executive know is going to bring in money if you decide to greenlight it, is such a luxury. It's something that, it's like a genie in a bottle. It's just such a rare thing to have that you absolutely want to find it. And with the Terminator franchise, the last movie was in 1991, Terminator 2, so it's been 12 years since we've seen the T-800 and company on the big screen. And the motivation is much more from the point of view of, okay, we need to make a quick buck, then let's continue the story, because Terminator 2 does not leave off with any kind of cliffhanger. And just to interrupt, 2 minutes into the movie, great opening image. There's some voiceover with John Connor talking about Judgment Day coming, and we get the missile from space, and there's a mushroom cloud. Awesome image. A lot of action movies start this way, where you get this kind of big literal explosion here to kind of put you in the mood. Okay, well, what's going on? Let me pay attention. The motivation for Terminator 3 is much more of a financial one than a story one. None of us were sitting there saying, wow, there were so many open-ended story elements in Terminator 2 that need to be resolved. Terminator 1 was left open for a sequel because you had the crushed skeleton of the Terminator within that machine press in the factory, so you knew that humans would find. You had Sarah Connor, who had been transformed, so she might be in a mental institution now. She might be trying to stop this apocalypse, which she believes is happening. So those threads logically continued into a second movie. Now, for a third movie, what do you do? At the end of the second one, you have John Connor throwing all the pieces of evidence for the Terminator project or for the Skynet project into the molten metal pit, and then Sarah Connor lowers the Terminator T-800 into the pit, so everything is destroyed. Only these two people now have the memories of it. Miles Bennett Dyson has been killed, and he's revealed all the information of the Skynet project to our heroes, and they've destroyed it all. They've blown up Cyberdyne. You could imagine, though, in 1991 that there is some kind of ARPANET, some internet kind of precursor where information is being stored in an online security sort of way that maybe Miles Bennett Dyson doesn't know about. So I could buy that, but that's not mentioned here. From a screenwriting point of view, if you sit down and you say, okay, I want to write Terminator 3, where is the story supposed to go from here? The great thing about T2 was that it took it to the next level, right? It's such a cliche phrase, to the next level. But it's really what we go to the movies to see. It's taking it someplace new, adding on to it, transforming it, because we remember what we've already seen. So we don't want to see that again. We're going to get tired and bored if it's just the same thing over and over. 4 minutes, 55 seconds into the film right here, we see an army of T-800s without any flesh walking along the hillside or whatever battlefield, and they're just shooting up. We've seen that in T2 already, so we're getting similar images. And we even get the image of the older John Connor, which in T2 looked cool because he didn't look like Edward Furlong. But here it looks just like the actor. The name is escaping me at the moment of who is playing John Connor right now. Probably because I'm blocking it out because I can't believe that Edward Furlong didn't return. But, oh, Nick Stahl, there we go. 5 minutes, 30 seconds, we have the actor's name on screen. So Nick Stahl, who I don't really remember from many movies. I think he's more of a small screen guy or an independent kind of film dude. Oh, I think he was in Bully, the Larry Clark film from a few years ago. Larry Clark, the director of Kids from the mid-90s. So Nick Stahl, okay, I guess because Edward Furlong had a drug problem. Unfortunate that he couldn't continue his role because it would have been nice to have that visual continuity, not just the essence of the character, which is a major element of why, for me, this film fails, because the essence of John Connor from the second movie really doesn't carry over to this one. 6 minutes, 20 seconds, we have the T-X arriving, the T-Triple-X as I call her, the Terminator hottie, Slutobot, whatever you want to dub her. Let's just call her the T-Triple-X, because she's hot. That's how we're going to change it here. In the second movie, we had the Liquid Terminator. Now we're going to have hot female Terminator. Really? Is that the best you could do? Is that she's a mix of a robot and liquid metal, and she has cool weapons and a nice ass? Is that really the best we could do? Come on, guys. It's 2003. We've got CGI that allows us to have Lord of the Rings fantasy orcs fighting an army of orcs and all this great stuff. The X-Men come to life, Spider-Man's coming to life, and this is the best we could do. So from a screenwriting point of view, it's like, okay, where can this go that's going to be somewhere new and fresh and engaging, that's really going to surprise the audience in the way that T2 did, because T2 takes the evil, menacing T-800 and makes him now the hero, puts him in the role of Kyle Reese, which is such a great twist. It was definitely an unpredicted move. And then you had the T-1000, which was a great character and a way to just show the audience this new technology with the liquid metal, with the morphing CGI. Amazing. So now what can T3 do that's going to add to the story? For me, as a writer, I don't want to see the same thing I've seen in the first two movies. And here, 8 minutes, 15 seconds into the movie, we're getting exactly the same structure as the previous two films. Admittedly, Terminator 2 just takes the exact same story points and structure from Terminator 1. We have the arrival of the Savior and of the Terminator. We have the object that they're after, the person that the T-1000 is trying to kill and that the T-800 is trying to save, or if it's Kyle Reese in the T-800 in the first movie. And we see how they all start kind of merging towards each other, where it's the two trains on the track heading towards each other, and in the middle of the first movie is Sarah Connor, and the second is John Connor. And it's right down to the end where you have the big truck chasing our heroes in the little car and the motorcycle in the first movie, and they arrive at the factory and there's the final battle. It's basically the same thing. What's great is that the second one altered the characters, and when you alter the characters, it's engaging on a new level. Just like all of us in real life, we're on Earth at the same time right now. We're born, we live, we die, we have an overall similar structure, but our personalities are different and our interactions with the world are different, and that's what brings variety, that's what brings the engagement, and that's why we don't live each other's lives. We're all on a unique path, and that's what we want to see in the movies here. So where would you take T3? Why would you make it so that John Connor once again is targeted for termination? Logically, if you think about this, basically what happens is that imagine you're in the future. You're John Connor, and you're sending back the T-800, reprogramming it to protect teenage John Connor against the T-1000. So you're in the future, and bam, they're sent back to the past. Now, according to time travel science fiction theory, the minute they're sent into the past, you should be altered at that moment. You would know instantaneously if the objective of your T-800 succeeded. If the T-1000 was successful in killing you, you would cease to exist. If the T-800 protected you, you would still be here, but would you be altered? Would the war have stopped? Now, going along this train of thought, it seems that, okay, instantaneously I'm still here, the T-800 was successful, and I guess that means all the steps in history were protected. So it's that kind of grandfather paradox, what comes first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing, where, okay, I guess it was necessary to send the T-800 back to make sure that I was here, but when was the first instance of that happening? And how is it possible that this is the first time? Because I didn't know I would do this, and I'm getting confused just talking about it right now. But you would know instantaneously. So the writers of this movie are making us believe that at the same time that the T-1000 is sent back, for some reason, Skynet has this even more superior experimental Terminator that they send to 2003, or whatever year the story takes place. I didn't pay attention, and I have not seen this movie a lot of times, proudly so, because it infuriated me a little bit, just the same way that Alien 3 did to Aliens. It just really disrespected what came before. So logically, you're saying that, okay, the T-1000 sent back, and the T-800 says it's a prototype, advanced prototype. But shouldn't he be saying advanced prototype? But we have even more advanced prototype, the T-XXX. She's really hot. So that means that Skynet sends the T-1000. Within a millisecond, it knows that the T-1000 failed because the war's still going on, the humans are about to defeat it. So it sends the T-XXX back right away, and with added orders to assassinate all the lieutenants and sergeants that helped John Connor win the war. And at that moment, John Connor says, okay, now I have to send something else back. Or he doesn't, because later in this story, we're going to learn that John Connor is killed by the T-800, which Skynet reprograms because it knows it has an emotional attachment to you. When he's like, who killed me? I did. So now the Skynet figures, okay, the T-1000 failed, so let's send the T-XXX back, and as soon as that's sent back, it knows it doesn't work, so it reprograms the T-800 to kill John Connor in the now. How does that timeline work? Because it's said that the Claire Danes character, Catherine Brewster, is the one who sends the T-800 back to protect against the T-XXX. So what is going on here? The truth is, this story was not thought through that deeply. What was going on here was that, okay, Arnold is going to be running for governor in 2004, and we can get him for one more Terminator movie before he quits acting for the next 4 to 8 years. Terminator 3 will be his last major film. So let's get him into a third movie. That was really the focus. And it truly makes no sense within the Terminator universe. If you're a writer, you're thinking, okay, what would be the most interesting thing to see? For me, after the second movie, it's always been the war. I want to see what Terminator Salvation covers, and later we'll talk about why it does that badly. But after seeing this movie, I do like the last 30 minutes. I do like seeing how Skynet was able to take control and launch its attack. It's pretty fascinating. Why didn't you make that more of the movie? Why not have Skynet launch its attack by the middle of this movie, or closer to the beginning of Act 2. Focus more on that, not on jokes and just the same thing we've seen before. Here, 15 minutes into the film, we're watching. Oh God. Oh God, why? The T-800 is in the bar where it's ladies' night and there's a male dancer in the leather outfit, and he says, talk to the hand. And the T-800 grabs the hand, squishes it, and talks to it. Oh, how far we've fallen. And then here's even insult to bad joke, which did get a laugh in the theaters, the Elton John-ish star silver glasses. Now he puts them on, he takes them off, and then crushes them. Oh God, as a director, as just a storyteller, what is the thinking in that moment? You get out of the bar, and for some reason, you, a robot, are going to reach into your pocket, take out these glasses, which aren't going to aid your visual perception of the environment in any kind of way. It's not going to add some sort of infrared vision or x-ray powers or whatever. It's just, okay, I'm going to put these glasses on, and I'm going to keep them on for like 10 seconds, and I'm going to take them off and smash them. Why? Because this is comedy porn. This is being done because the filmmakers know that an audience is watching it. This is a corruption of the purity of the story. Ideally, in any movie, the action that's taking place should be taking place honestly, which means that there's no indication that there's viewers watching. There's no voyeuristic knowledge. It's not reality TV where everyone on any kind of reality show knows that they're going to be watched. So they're going to alter their behavior. They're going to change the nature of how they would normally react. It's going to be heightened, a little bit more outrageous, whatever their motivations are going to be in acting how they're acting. A lot of them in reality TV act like, oh, I want to get my own show, or I want to stand out, so I'm going to be the bitch, or I'll be the a-hole, or I'll be this character. It's just really a corruption of the natural, what would happen in this moment of the story. If we ask ourselves, or even imagine if you're writing T3, and you write, Terminator exits bar, puts on glasses, waits 10 seconds, takes off glasses. What the F? What does that even mean? Why would he do that? It's a robot with a specific program with no human emotions that's cold-blooded and is just going to do what it's told. What is the motivation for him to put these glasses on? It's to give us a laugh. And that's the major problem with this movie. It's doing a lot of things for reactions to the audience instead of being true to the moment of its story and with the integrity of the characters and keeping it honest and real. It's winking to us. The Terminator with the glasses there is a wink. Haha, this is funny. Even though already in the second movie, with the glasses and the George Thorogood Bad to the Bone little music cue, that was a kind of a spoof of the first movie in a slick little way. This is the next step. It's like, okay, the joke worked in T2, let's do it again. Why would the Terminator want to put on a black leather outfit again, the biker outfit? Is that way too much of a coincidence? It would have been great if he would have woke up next to a construction site and driven around with just overalls and a flannel shirt or something. What's the natural moment of the story? But then again, the image of the T-800 on a motorcycle with the leather outfit and the shotgun and the dark sunglasses, it's very iconic, and it's just like when you think Terminator, that's what you remember. So you do have to a little bit kind of fall into paying that off with the audience because that's why they're here and that's what they remember. But just in terms of the story, that kind of a thing where you're corrupting the integrity of your characters is you're already on a path to being doomed. You want that unpredictable road here. It's the road less taken. It's okay, sequels and blockbusters go down the safe path. Here's the one where there's nothing paved and there's no lighting and it's leading into the forest, but you know what? There's some wonderful discoveries to be made there. And if we can just have faith in the story and the audience, we can really go someplace special. An example would be, okay, the T-800 just lands at that spot and there's a construction site there, or it's a police station, he puts on a police uniform. It's something. It's just something different from the second movie. Don't do the same thing over and over. Now I'm about 20 minutes into the movie, and Catherine Brewster and John Connor have met in the veterinary clinic, and he's in a cage now. I must go rescue him. But what to really discuss at this point is that one major element when you're writing a story, when you're doing a sequel, whatever movie, is you have to think in terms of the character. What is the character journey in this film? Who is having the journey? It should be the main character. Here it would be John Connor, much like Sarah Connor had the journey in the first film. And in the second film, it was John Connor and the T-800 Terminator both having journeys, both changing, both growing. And by the end of the second movie, John Connor has gone from a disbeliever, a skeptic in his destiny, thinking that his mother was crazy, into, wow, it's all true, and I'm ready to become a leader. I've gone through something powerful in this moment, and I'm ready to do what it takes to lead the resistance and to be prepared for Judgment Day. Also, having a father figure was a major element of that story, where John never knew Kyle Reese, but the T-800 became sort of a stepdad for him. And the T-800, his transformation with having a learning computer, and at the end of that, he's like, I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do. And Linda Hamilton, or Sarah Connor's closing narration, where she says, if a Terminator has learned the value of a human life, maybe there's hope that we all can too. Great message, really powerfully done, in a nice, subtle way through character growth. Now, T3, what is the theme? What is the message? And who is the character that's undergoing this growth? The major problem with T3, aside from it just rehashing old jokes and old images from the first two Terminators, is that it doesn't do that. It repeats the journey of the first or second film. Here we have John Connor. Shouldn't this film, the third film, take him to some place new, that intermediate step between, okay, I'm a teen and I believe in my fate, in my future, and I'm prepared to do what it takes, to that I'm the general with the scar on his face and I'm hardened and I've led my troops. So what's that step in between? Well, it's probably here, T3. So what's the new thing that can happen? From a writer's point of view, I think it would be the death of Sarah Connor. Now, unfortunately, I don't know the details as to why Linda Hamilton was unable to be in this movie. Maybe she read the script and decided against it. Maybe she was just tired of playing Sarah Connor. I don't know the reasons, but it's really unfortunate that her presence is gone from the movie, because she also undergoes an interesting change in T2, where she goes from hating the machine, being against the T-800, to coming to accept him and to trust into some machine. She comes to trust the T-800. And to believe that if the T-800 has the ability to learn, if it has this neural net processor that allows it to have independent thought, then all might not be lost. There might be a hope for the future. And she starts to believe in her son and see her son grow into just relinquish a little bit of her control over him. It's amazing. Really well done. So everyone in that film really undergoes some change, which is really the ultimate goal of any kind of storytelling. Treat all of the people in a movie as 100% three-dimensional characters, much like Lost. Lost is the greatest example of developing every single character. Now, it's TV and we get to have time to flash back to everyone's backstory, and that helps us understand who they are and what motivates them now. You don't need to do flashbacks. You just need to create characters that have that within them, and you're able to direct, as a director, direct the actor, work with them to tap into that history and to inform their reactions within the moment of the situation. That's the power of acting. If you can have a character that's nicely, deeply drawn up, three-dimensional, again, the ultimate image for an actor is the iceberg. At the surface is what you see, but beneath the surface is this huge mountain of backstory and emotional turmoil and memories and everything that makes us who we are. And when conflict arises between another person within the scene, the actor, the character, go down deep below those waters, and that mixture of humanity is what informs a reaction at that moment. Who I am right now reacting to you is a result of who I've become from where I've been. So I need to know that history. You don't need to tell us on screen. We just want to see it in the moment, and we can draw conclusions from your reactions as an actor, as the character. So the writer has to create those icebergs that are underwater. Don't just give us a surface, because if we peek below the water and we see that it's just a block of ice floating, it's a light character. It's no one it's someone that's not very developed. We need to see below the water. We need to see that mountain of history, that drawn personality. And that's a major problem, is that too many shortcuts, you just do cliche character stereotypes, and it's just reactions we've seen in every movie. It's nothing special. The films we remember are the ones with the characters that make interesting decisions based on who they are and what they want. You have to give every character a need, an objective, describe them, describe their personalities, and make that inform how they react in the moment. 27 minutes into the film, just want to talk about this moment. Probably for me the best scene in the movie, the best real moment of the movie. 27 minutes when John Connor sees the T-800 walking through the hallway as there's this smoke from the fire and everything, and the slow motion, and we get a close-up of John Connor's face. Awesome, because that connects us with Terminator 2. It's virtually the same kind of shot that we've seen in the second movie, where John Connor first sees the T-800 in the hallway in the mall, where the T-800 is going to fight with the T-1000. And then even later when they're escaping Cyberdyne and there's all the smoke and everything, the T-800 has a similar kind of look and walk to him. That's the moment that really counts. That's the moment that emotionally connects John Connor from the third movie back to the second movie. But what is the journey? That's what's missing here. That's what's been neglected. Where do we take John Connor from this moment forward? And unfortunately, the problem with T3 in that area is that it doesn't. John Connor is basically saying the same things we heard him say towards the end of the second movie, that he believes and that the war is coming and that the T-800 is a Terminator and blah blah blah. There's nothing new to his character. And what we get instead is Catherine Brewster. Catherine Brewster. That's my rule here. Every time I have to say Catherine Brewster, I have to say it like the T-800. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger's dialogue. Him and Christopher Walken. Love the way they deliver lines. Catherine Brewster is the one who starts to have the character change. And it's a character change, it's a thematic journey that we've seen in the first two films, because Sarah Connor and John Connor both underwent this. She's a skeptic. She doesn't believe. She just has a regular life. And I just want to be married to my fiance, and I just want to have my wedding, and we have a hunky-dory happy life, and I don't care about all this stuff. And by the end of the movie, she's going to become a believer. That's the only person in the movie that has a journey. The T-800 is just the same guy from the second movie. My mission is to protect you. But this time, Catherine Brewster reprogrammed me instead of you. Who cares? And again, John Connor, same standard character from the second movie. So the challenge would have been, where do we take this to a new place? For me, the missing element would be Sarah Connor. And if you can't have Sarah Connor in this film, what do? Do you just not make it, or then maybe work around it? It would have been nice to see John emotionally affected by the loss of his mother in these situations. But we just get a quick reference to it, and it's not really focused on it, and it's not something that's weighing him down. It's not on his shoulders. It's not a rain cloud that's kind of pouring emotion over him and following him everywhere. Really missing that. We need to anchor this story within his character. This has become his series since Sarah Connor is not here anymore. So what is he trying to do? Why isn't he the one that's driving the action? If in the second film it was more Sarah Connor and the T-800 making the decisions, driving the action, this is the movie where he takes over. Here at 31 minutes, we have a reference to the T-1000 where the cop drives up on the motorcycle and Schwarzenegger, or the T-800, flips him off and takes off. By the way, this looks super fake. This whole, pay attention to this sequence. It's going to be about a 10-minute sequence. And they leave the vet clinic, and it's pretty dark. It's night. And I don't know about you, but it usually takes about 20 or 30 minutes for the sun to rise and for the night to disappear. Here, within 2 minutes, it goes from pretty much pitch black to, okay, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just a little bit of an annoyance, but whatever. For me, that's just another example of we can get away with things here. No one's really expecting much from this movie. It's just a fun ride. We get to see Arnold as Terminator again. It's been 12 years, so why not just do it? So a little bit disappointed. Here is a pretty great action sequence. I got to give this a lot of credit. I saw this in the theater with my brother back in 2003. We both went to check out T2 multiple times when it came out initially. We were pretty young at that time, and it was just a total joy. It was one of the great movie-going experiences of our lives. We watched it probably like 3 times on the big screen. And knowing that this was coming out and having seen the previews, we were like, it doesn't really look all that good, but let's just do it for tradition's sake. And this sequence here really kind of made us look at each other and go, that was all right. That wasn't too bad. It's really well done, but it's ultimately just a distraction. It's like, okay, there's nothing else going on in terms of the characters, so let's just have a really cool action sequence. And this is admittedly a pretty cool element of the TXXX where she has nanotechnology. Right? Nanotechnology is the new thing that's in every sci-fi movie. It's like, okay, it's got nanites. Nanotechnology, it's everywhere. And these nanites are able to help the TXXX control other machines. Great idea. You could, if you were writing this story, you could work with that so heavily. You can incorporate that into every aspect of this film. You can talk about how message of the movie, or just explore that element in our world where we're becoming so much like babies that we need technology to take care of ourselves, and we're relinquishing our control of the world step by step to convenience. And this nanite ability that this TXXX has, where she can infect other machines and then remotely control them, so awesome to work with. And that's how and why Skynet is able to take over, because everything is so interconnected. And once you just give that power over to an artificially intelligent life form creation, can you trust it 100%? And what does it say about us as people? It's got so much that you can just mine for it and just put it within other characters and let those characters represent those values. But again, that's too deep, right? You don't want to waste time. We just want to see this. But I'm always going to argue that if you don't care about the characters, the action sequence isn't going to mean anything. The action sequence is just going to be there for an awesome thrill, but it's not going to have any kind of emotional impact, and it won't have any lasting effect. This crane that the TXXX is driving and just destroying building after building with and racing down the street, really visceral, very fantastic, pretty exciting, really well made. Jonathan Mostow, I believe he directed U-571 or one of those kind of submarine action movies, so he has some background in this genre, and he really is effective. He knows what he's doing. Really great shot here, 35 minutes, 30 seconds, where the T-800 is dragged through the car dealership. And that's not CGI. A lot of this movie, if you listen to the commentary, the director will tell you and point out all the CGI that was going on. And there was a ton of it. Even at one point where the T-800 is on this fire truck, a lot of that is CGI. As opposed to the second movie, where you had obviously stuntmen crawling up the trucks and doing all the stunts. That adds a level to filmmaking that makes it all the more real, and just on a subconscious level, you feel that tension. It's added tension because it's like, oh, that's a real guy that's doing that stunt, even though you know it's not the real actor. All that is instantaneously processed by us, right? But here, even the scenes where the characters are in the cars and we have the passing scenery, that's just done on a stage. That's a green screen, and you can just click and drag whatever kind of scenery you want in the background. It looks real enough, so it's very computerized, and that's a whole just meta level that you can address with this whole thing of Skynet and technology and computers taking over and AI. It's great. It's really great. Great action sequence has been going on for about 8 minutes. 8 minutes of minimal dialogue, minimal story progression, minimal thematic exploration. So it's just purely a genre set piece, right? When you go to see an action or a sci-fi film, you want to see those elements, and this absolutely delivers on that. This is very reminiscent of The Dark Knight. It does it first, right? Where it basically flips a truck over on a street, but it's totally all CGI. And The Dark Knight actually did it. Actually flipped a truck over. So it makes a big difference. The Dark Knight, you can really feel the impact versus, wow, that looks really fake here. And here we get the same scene that we had in T2 in the desert. 38 minutes, 10 seconds. John Connor is sitting next to the T-800 in the truck here. Oh, and by the way, we get the same reaction from the T-XXX here, where she emerges from the truck wreck, as we did in T2 when the T-800, Schwarzenegger, rescues John Connor on the little motorcycle as the truck is chasing him. It's the exact same sequence, except this time we have Catherine Brewster hanging around with John Connor. Again, Catherine representing the thematic journey that John underwent in the second movie, because here in the third film, he's not undergoing one. So someone, at least the writers were instinctive enough to know, okay, we have to have someone that's changing, someone that's growing, so let's have Catherine Brewster tag along. Instead of just eliminating her from the story and having this be about John Connor. What would he be experiencing in this moment? What would he be going through? What's the journey he needs to take to become the ultimate leader? He's undergone enough in the second movie, but there's something missing. There's that little piece that's going to just click and make him that total leader that makes him ready for the war. So here we go, 39 minutes, 30 seconds. Where are you taking me? Again, we're in the desert again. This is so pathetic. We're 39 minutes and 40 seconds. We're in a desert just like we were in T2. Again, fake background here with the windows. They're on a stage, and this is all CGI. Kind of scary because it does look real. But in the second one, it was real, and here we have that computer simulation. And here we have the conundrum BS story. You could not be located, so a TX was sent back in time to eliminate your lieutenant. So it's an accident that the TXXX found John Connor in this moment. You only postponed it. Judgment Day is inevitable. You only postponed it. Judgment Day is inevitable. 40 minutes, 15 seconds into the movie, we learn the motivation of why this movie exists. Because you only postponed it. Judgment Day is inevitable. Also known as sequels are inevitable. It had to be made. We had to think of a crazy, stupid story that made no sense and took everything from the first two movies and just put it all together in a very simplistic way. These are the same thrills and the same twists that you've already seen. But hey, a bad Terminator movie is better than none at all, right? Wrong, wrong, wrong. TX is faster, more powerful, more intelligent. Nick Stahl's interpretation of John Connor just really doesn't work for me. So she's an anti-Terminator Terminator. And you can't blame the actor. I mean, he's been in some good films and he's shown that he knows how to do his stuff. You have to blame the writing, that the character of John Connor was not totally captured. His journey, again, was not thought out. The impact of losing his mother and of being in the situation again. Wouldn't he have much more of a reaction of, I haven't seen my father in 10 years, or I thought my parent was dead, and oh my god, they're still alive. Have you ever had a dream where in the dream it's so lucid, so real, and you've lost someone or something horrible's happened, and you're just sitting there thinking, please let this be a dream, please let this not be a reality. Please let me have another chance to make this right, or hope that this hasn't happened. And boom, the T-800 shows up. At the end of Terminator 2, John Connor is crying because he has to kill his best friend and his father figure. And now he sees him return to him. How would that affect someone? How would that affect a kid seeing a parent after so many years, or thinking that this person was dead or you were never going to see them again, and now they're back? Why doesn't he run up and hug him? Why doesn't he revert for one moment? You know, all adults are trying to be kind of just grown-ups and just mature and everything's under control, but within every adult is a little kid also. So just let that kid just come through in that moment. Let that vulnerability be there. It would have been such a great reaction for him to go just like hug the T-800 or just have a strong emotional reaction, but all we get is some slow-mo, which they were headed in the right direction, but they failed to really capitalize on it. And from that moment on, wow, the T-800's back. Maybe John Connor would remind him of what they went through in the first movie, and the T-800 would have to say, I'm not that Terminator. I'm not the same one that you destroyed 12 years ago. I look like him, but I'm a different model, and I'm just a program. So then what does that do to John Connor? Does he try to teach him again? What is the struggle that's going on? That would have been way more interesting than just assuming, okay, this T-800 is going to be exactly like the T-800 from the second movie, and he'll say funny things every now and then and have cutesy reactions. No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. What is the logical progression of all these characters? And here are the moments when you can detect how shallow or deep the character development is. 44 minutes, 50 seconds roughly, John Connor and Catherine Brewster are in the back of the truck, and she is now asking, what's going on? Who are you? And again, this is a scene where we're getting information we already know. The audience is so far ahead of this, and we are impatient when it comes to Catherine Brewster learning about everything. Who cares? These are the same questions that Sarah Connor asked in the first movie, that John Connor asked in the second movie. We don't want to have them repeated to us yet again. I don't care about Catherine Brewster. I care about John Connor. And this, in terms of structure, is a window character moment, is a mirror character, a confession character moment, where our hero, the main character, after moments of conflict, starts to reveal how that conflict, how the drama, how the struggle is affecting them internally. In the second film, John Connor would do this with the T-800 or with his mom. In reality TV, this happens all the time, whether it's Survivor or The Amazing Race. They go through these different tasks and these challenges, and then they have the confession cam, and they sit down and they say, wow, that really pushed my boundaries. I never thought that, well, I'm on Fear Factor, and I never thought I'd eat cockroaches or that I'd skydive or that I would hang from a crane on a car and try to start it and win $50,000. And here's what it means to me. I can now finish school, or I can pay the medical bills for my parents, or I can travel the world, which has been a dream of mine. How does this affect you as a main character? And this is what we need here. John Connor needs to communicate to someone what's going on. I thought my mother would always be here to kind of help me understand what happened. But I knew that one day I had to become the leader. And she's gone and I miss her, but I have the strength. Everything she said is true. I believe in myself. I can do it. Here's what we're going to do. I'm the main character. This movie is me taking control and being the decision maker. In a story, the person who makes the active decisions to pursue the objective is the main character. What's going on here is that the T-800 is making all the decisions. I'm going to protect. We have to drive here. We have to go here. Okay, I'm John Connor. I'll just talk about the same stuff that I talked about in the second movie, and I'm not really changing. And you just go ahead and say some funny lines every now and then and just drive us wherever you want. Literally, 47 minutes into the movie, the T-800 is driving the characters. He's in control. You want to actively know, okay, the person who makes the decisions and pursuing the objective and controlling their destiny is the main character. Now, the T-XXX is a solid opponent, cliche and stereotypical in terms of her reactions. And here we even get, 48 minutes. The police come to the fiancé's apartment or condominium, and the T-XXX has assumed his look, which is what the T-1000 did a couple different times in the second movie. At that time, it was fresh and new and inventive, and wow, we were very interested and blown away by it. Here, it's repetitive, and okay, the T-XXX just does whatever the T-800 could do, whatever the T-1000 can do, and she looks hot. Yeah, okay. And that moment of how the opponent learns where the main character is going, where the opponent's objective, which is to kill John Connor and Catherine Brewster and to eliminate the T-800, learns through the police where they're headed, where they were last seen. Which that moment when the T-800 went into the grocery store and told the clerk to talk to the hand, another bad idea in terms of a joke. Yeah, I giggled in the theater, but I also wanted to cry because it was like, what have they done to this mighty, cinematic, legendary character that made everyone afraid in 1984 and that made them feel like they were being protected by a father-parent figure in 1991. Now it's kind of just like a sad, tired character that you just laugh at, not because they're really being funny, but just like, I don't want them to feel bad for what they've become. They've become kind of pathetic in terms of a character. Very sad. In terms of motivation within the moment of the story, if this was honestly being written when the T-800 goes into the grocery store, it would knock out that clerk. Why would you leave the clerk aware and awake enough to call and report that the vehicle carrying these fugitives has just stopped in and give the authorities the license plate? Because the story beat requires it, not because it comes organically from the moment of the conflict of the situation, but because, well, we need to find out how the TX is going to find them, so why don't we just have this clerk, this funny moment? It doesn't make any sense, but the clerk will just call, and the cops will find out, and they'll go to the fiancé, and the fiancé will be the TXXX because she has all the powers of the T1000, and we'll make her look like the fiancé. And then it'll know where they're going. How about what's new in this story, and how could that lead to where the TXXX finds where they're at? Well, we have the TXXX with nanotechnology, infecting other computers, infecting other technology. And we have her in the beginning do this phone call where she calls like Skynet to the future, sort of like 12 Monkeys, where Bruce Willis is dialing this number and there's messages from the future sent to the past. So there could be that kind of a network set up. And how about the TXXX just links in to this internet connected world and uses technology sort of eagle eye style to just locate them? That would make a whole lot more sense, and it would add a new level to the story, something we've never seen before. We would have seen this in 2003 instead of 2008 with Eagle Eye, where the idea of a super AI intelligence computer using cameras and cell phones and everything that we already have around us for its own gain. We could have done that here if there would have been a little more ingenuity and focus on the creativity of the moment based on the attributes of the characters, based on what you've already established. You've given the TXXX the ability to manipulate and infiltrate computers and technology. Just have her use it. It's already there. Don't use the same old trick we've seen in the other movies. That would have been so much more refreshing and inventive, and it would have added a level of theme and commentary on our society, that everything is connected and it's much easier to find out where someone's at. It would have been great. It would have been a very cool little moment. But they took the easy way out, and now we're here 52 minutes into the movie. We go to the cemetery. Another amazing opportunity for emotional exploration of a character. John Connor is going to the place where his mother is buried, where he thinks his mother is buried. And when he opens up her casket, there's a bunch of guns. That's probably my second favorite moment of this movie, aside from the T-800 walking in the hallway and the close-up on John Connor's face, kind of connecting emotionally to Terminator 2. That is such a representation of who Sarah Connor became. She was so obsessed with protecting her son that she really represented self-defense, preparation, weaponry, and having those guns and weapons buried there. It's just such a nice little metaphoric, symbolic little touch of this is who she was and this is what she would have done. Really honest to the character. This is probably one of the more interesting little moments and twists within the movie. But I would have liked to have seen more of an emotional breakdown in that moment by John Connor. Just let him pour out, man. This is the time. We're at the middle of the movie, and it's the time to really just let your insecurities show. You're gonna start from this point forward, you're heading towards the person you're gonna become. If you have a thematic journey in the movie, at the beginning, you're furthest away from where you're gonna end up. Sounds pretty obvious, but you have to kind of measure it. Okay, where do I want to take this character? Well, by the middle, just if we're looking at it from a non-specific kind of structure point, if I'm in the middle, I'm closer to becoming who I'm gonna be than who I was. So it would make sense for an emotional little breakdown, strong reaction. He's also physically in an environment that could mirror the inner environment of having lost his mom and not having this person who seemed to know everything about the future and seemed to know how to defend and do all the right things. It seemed like Sarah Connor should become the strong leader of the future. So how could he start to take that into himself and really open it up? Externally, we have the visuals of this internal environment of John Connor. It's such a great moment that's just ready to be mined, man. There's diamonds behind those walls. Just get that pickaxe out. Like, give that gun to John Connor and just have him shoot it up and reveal those diamonds, those emotional little gems, man. It's right there. Just go for it. Don't focus on the jokes or this little stupid side thing that happens where Catherine Brewster gets the gun and she's like, oh, I want to go. Imagine if that scene didn't have her. Again, eliminate her character from the movie because her character is a band-aid that is covering up the major infection. And that's the fact that John Connor is the one that needs to undergo the change here. Get rid of Catherine, and instead of her lashing out with a gun and threatening the T-800, it would be John Connor lashing out, not with a gun, not wanting to leave, but discovering his inner hero, his leadership that's going to lead to becoming this guy who can figure out how to defeat a seemingly insurmountable, smarter, faster, advanced opponent in Skynet. This is the moment that would define the rewrite of this movie. And it would be great if John Connor would be the one to start making some of these decisions. I do like here at 56 minutes that the T-800 takes the casket and inside is John Connor. We're going to assume that Sarah Connor had this be a bulletproof casket because if she put guns in there, she probably thought, okay, why not just make it bulletproof or just make it leak-proof or whatever, just to protect all this? Because I don't know about you, any normal casket, I don't think 100 rounds of bullets are going to be bouncing off it. It would definitely penetrate and John Connor would have been killed. I like the idea of the T-800 carrying the casket with the gun kind of shooting through. This is definitely the same thing as the second movie where you have Arnold with the minigun kind of just shooting up all the cop cars, not injuring anybody, and just helping everyone escape. It's the same situation. And here Catherine Brewster, again, we're focused. Any scene with Catherine Brewster, if you're rewriting the script, if you have the script and not the film, you can just eliminate every scene with her and it really doesn't affect the majority of the story. Here we have the missile launcher explosion, 57 minutes, 30 seconds. Great visual, super fake, absolutely CGI. And now see, notice here, this moment for Catherine Brewster is when she makes her decision to commit 100% to John Connor and Arnold and the T-800. And the T-XXX is running just like the T-1000 did. It's like, come on, man, give us something new. But here, Catherine Brewster's character is the one that's now committing, undergoing the change. Eliminate her, focus it on John Connor. In the rewrite, probably in this scene, John Connor is the one driving. Maybe it was his idea. It would probably have been his idea to be in the casket. Now, it was a nice surprise that's how he got out. So you can just cut the scene in the mausoleum a little bit early. John Connor could say, I have an idea. Cut to Arnold carrying the casket, going out, and then when we get in the Hertz, John Connor reveals himself. Now John Connor should be the one that's driving. Again, this is a passive main character, 58 minutes, 40 seconds into the movie. We have the T-XXX on top of the roof, cutting through, and John Connor is in the back seat. How much more literal of a representation do you want? He is in the back seat as a character. He's not in control. And he finds a gun here and he shoots her up and wow, okay, we get some effects that remind us of the T-1000 with the bullet sort of water impressions on the T-XXX. And this is a decent car chase scene, 59 minutes into the movie. These set pieces are definitely pretty solid. The problem is that when there's no action going on, what is within the characters? What's going on between the characters? And it's a combination of lack of emotional development and just cut and paste story character elements from the other movies. How many times are we going to see 59 minutes, 40 seconds? How many times are we going to see the T-XXX stand up or get a close-up of the T-XXX after she's just been temporarily disabled? It's like, come on, dude. It's just so funny. It's like, okay, here's another one. I almost got him, and now I'm pissed. So now I've got the flamethrower. Wow, she's got the flamethrower. That's awesome. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. Now, I do like that they're going to be driving in the Winnebago. That's a nice little addition. Again, this is a perfect example of what this movie needed more of, where you have just kind of a natural flow of, okay, well, what would be here? A Winnebago. That's pretty interesting. The Terminator driving a Winnebago. It is funny, but it's organically funny. Nothing is forced. It's not a reference. I'm tired of references. We don't need to see anymore. I forgot to mention that in that cemetery sequence, we had Dr. Silverman make an appearance. Now, as much as I do like that because he's Dr. Silverman is one of the great characters of the first two Terminator films. He's only in maybe a total of, I don't know, 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes out of the 4 hours of the first two films. But because his character is so well defined, his perspective, his point of view is so clear. Laser beam just cutting. Here's what I believe. I believe Sarah Connor is crazy, that Kyle Reese was crazy, that there is no Terminator, that it's all delusion, that I know I'm the master of the psychological universe. I know what sanity is. There's no such thing as these kind of crazy machines. He's such a great character, and to have him brought back here, it's forcing it a little. It would have been interesting if it would have been a little more organic for it to happen. I mean, why would he be brought in to this situation? I guess you can assume that pictures of this Arnold T-800 have been circulating in the media, and he probably saw it on TV, so he contacted the police, or the police contacted him and they said, oh, you dealt with this guy twice already. He's back again. Now, if I was Dr. Silverman, I would probably go insane. So again, if we're thinking from a screenwriting point of view, what is each character's journey? Each character is three-dimensional and well-developed. They're that iceberg, again, under the water. They have a whole universe of experience and emotions. Dr. Silverman would be like, how about no? How about I'm not going to show up because I kind of believe this guy's real, and I'm not sure if he is, which makes me think I'm kind of going crazy. Sarah Connor made me crazy, and I don't want to rupture these caps, these little protective layers I have that are protecting me from this insanity. You know, I'm kind of functioning in this world, and I don't need anything that's going to aggravate that. But no, let's just bring him in because, hey, the audience is going to be like, oh, wow, that's that a-hole doctor from the first two movies. Great, he's going to get burned again. Yeah, not really. How about no? Okay, now finally, an hour and 3 minutes into the film, John Connor finally grows a pair, finally starts to take some action. It's not necessarily created out of anything that's happened before, but he finally grows a pair and he's like, hey, you know what? How about we try to stop it? You say that Judgment Day is inevitable. No, I believe that we can do it. I believe that we can make sure that this doesn't happen. This is great. This is what we need more of. If you're reading a screenplay, let's say this is a third draft, and you come to this scene, you're going to say, okay, this is great. This scene really works because finally the main character is becoming aggressive. They have an objective. They're making decisions, and they're in conflict with the other characters because they want something. Let's try to build upon this. We're going to build from this moment forward. We're going to build on this, but now we have to work backward. We have to go back into every scene John Connor's in and somehow get him to this point and make it make sense, but also give these hints that this is within him. Now you want to just sprinkle these seeds, much the same way if you look at this T3, Terminator 3, I really like the way that Skynet is slowly infecting all of the communication systems around the world, where you have Arnold in the grocery mart slash gas station, and when he steals the junk food or whatever, you see that the television image goes off, that something's happened to the signal. Earlier there's a problem with the cell phone. That's the exact same way you would fix character. When you're doing something with Skynet infecting the world, you say, okay, let's just pepper it, right? Let's put something in this scene, phone stop working. In this scene, computer connection stop working. In this scene, television stops working. So slowly, you're getting this sense. You know, it's kind of like these storm clouds in the distance. Slowly, it's all coming together. This same thing has to happen with each character. Slowly, scene by scene, moment by moment, conflict by conflict, emotional reaction by emotional reaction, they're slowly changing. They're slowly getting to this point where they're going to become who they are, where they're going to be at a point of, okay, here's the decision I need to make, and all these previous instances have led to this decision. So now an hour and 6 minutes into the movie, John Connor has force them to try to, okay, let's try to stop this. Instead of Judgment Day is inevitable, no, it's not inevitable. Let's try to do something about it. There's only about 40-something minutes left in the movie. It's a little bit late for this to be happening. It would be great if John Connor would have been aggressive like this from the beginning. This is where the movie starts to feel new. For the first hour, it's basically been a Cliff Notes version of the first two Terminators, with different people and similar lines and a couple different images here and there, but it's all been the same. Now we have Catherine Brewster in the passenger seat with Arnold, indicating again that her importance as a character is even above that of John Connor. Now notice in the previous scene, John Connor was the one to initiate this, and he's working on some weapon stuff in the background there. But it would be great if he still maintained this level of passion and aggressiveness in terms of making decisions. And here we get kind of this cheesy little information. You're John Connor's spouse and second in command. Again, eliminate her from the story, and you can add a lot to the journey of John Connor, the character of Arnold, the T-800, and their objective, which would be to stop the future. Yeah, okay, you say that it can only be postponed, but let's find out what's going on. Wouldn't it be awesome? Wouldn't it be amazing to see that Cyberdyne Systems had another location and all the information that was destroyed at the end of the second movie was still around, that there was a backup server, and now someone else is behind the program? Don't we want to see more scenes of Catherine Brewster's father? She's this high-ranking military Air Force official who's in charge of the program. Don't we want to see that? Why not have a little bit more of that? Why not have moments where John Connor finds out Catherine Brewster, okay, your dad's in charge of this. Oh, wow, okay, that's where Skynet is. Catherine Brewster, now we need you to become more active and help us stop this whole Skynet threat. Here at an hour and 8 minutes, almost an hour and 9 minutes, we have Catherine Brewster's father referring to Skynet and something's going on with the computer systems. But it's been so long since we've seen him, and in between, all we've gotten are a couple of decent action sequences and a bunch of repeat conflicts from the other Terminator films. Focus more on this. This is what's new. From this point forward, the movie becomes so interesting. And it's great because, again, at this point, Skynet's going to take over. So a lot of the prototypes, a lot of the technology has already been built. Skynet's going to continue to advance, like this idea of a Terminator program, but with these ships and these interesting little robots. It's very cool. So it would have been great if somehow this could have been a little more incorporated into the film, and the pursuit of stopping Skynet should have happened 40 minutes into the film, not 59 minutes or an hour into the movie. Give us an extra 20 minutes of John Connor actively making decisions and pursuing his objective of stopping Skynet and having emotional reactions to the T-800, Arnold, and his mother's death and all that, and we'll be good. This movie will definitely transform itself. Here's another scene here where at an hour and 10 minutes in, Catherine Brewster and John Connor are sitting over their little table where he's making bombs, much like Kyle Reese made them in the first Terminator, and they're sharing a nice little intimate moment. Little window character scene. And then we have the T-800, Arnold. Throw a little funny line there. It relieves tension. That was a little bit of a window character scene, but not really. We just learned that John Connor was Catherine Brewster's first kiss. Okay, that's a decent information, but again, if she's not in the movie, we get John Connor's perspective here, which is a lot more interesting. Here at an hour and 11 minutes in, we see the T-XXX at the military base here, and Catherine Brewster's father is talking to his superiors about this worldwide problem that's going on, and that they should give Skynet control of worldwide defenses and various important functions of the military. And we have the cliche voice on the other side. I'm the cliche tough guy. You just do it, right? I don't think. Just go ahead. Do it. Oh, and here's the classic motivation. You'll get all the funding you need. Personal gain. You have to make the choice. He's actually, Catherine Brewster's father probably has one of the better performances in the movie. He's very conflicted about putting Skynet online. And a great scene here, again, I wish this would have been in the movie a little bit more. The T-XXX is infecting the T1-2. Wow, so we went from the T1-2 to the T-800 to the T-1000. So this is like she's taking a look at an ancestor, and she's infecting it with nanotechnology. And let's not even try to dissect what that would mean. With her being there, wouldn't she just be altering the future by dispensing advanced technology? How about this? How about this? Has anyone mentioned this in any kind of review? Why doesn't Skynet just send the most advanced technology back in time and just develop it even further? Why doesn't it just send itself its own technology, not before the war starts? When at the beginning Skynet has the most control, when at the beginning Skynet has a secure facility where it's designing all this cool technology. So like 20 years in the future, why doesn't it just send the most advanced technology 20 years in the past, and when those 20 years go, it'll be 40 years ahead of its schedule, and it'll have even more advanced technology, and it'll be able to destroy the resistance. Why focus on killing this human character if you can just advance your technology and not worry about it? Frustration because I want to use logic and I can't, and it's hurting my brain, and I have to lobotomize myself. Excuse me while I drink some kind of psycho drug reactive cocktail that'll make me a zombie while the rest of this movie plays out. Oh boy. So that would have been cool. That's what Skynet should be like. You know what? I've sent like 10 Terminators back to kill this guy John Connor. It's not happening. It's not in the cards. It's not in the destiny of Skynet to kill John Connor. So how about we just empower ourselves by sending ourselves our own technology? That would have been great. But that's not much fun when it comes to characters and this moment. So from this point on, it's an hour and 14 minutes into the film. This is pretty much just a bullet, right? The movie is really going to move forward because now it knows what it wants to do. And it really gets exciting because, again, everything that we're seeing for the last half hour to 40 minutes is new. It's fresh, and we're exploring new territory. And we've finally gotten off that old road. You know, it's like you're going on vacation somewhere and you're on the highway. It's well paved, well lit. The GPS system in the car is like, okay, I'll tell you where to go. And then now we're turning off onto the gravel dirt road, and the GPS is like, I don't know where we're going. I'm turning myself off because I'm kind of scared. Here, new territory, and for us, the audience, we finally start to lean forward in the seat, and we're like, okay, wow, what's going on? And this is really great. We get to see Skynet take control and emerge. How are our characters going to get out of here? How are they going to stop it? We still hope that they are going to stop it. Catherine Brewster's father has been shot. Love this moment. So the last 40 minutes of Terminator 3, I'll take it. If there's a DVD of just the last 40 minutes and maybe just a remake of the first hour and 10, if somehow maybe in the future we'll have a technology of editing where we can take all the characters and put our own dialogue and they'll speak it and it'll look real, I'll buy that program. Again, it would be great if John Connor was the one coming up with ideas, but here it's the T-800 that's doing everything. And we have Arnold with the minigun, a nice little image that we loved in the second Terminator because it wasn't anything we saw in the first Terminator. So lesson to be learned from T3. Do not cut and paste the same stuff we've seen in the other movies. Hour and 17 minutes into the film, they're in this private office, and Catherine Brewster's father is giving John Connor the secret codes to stop Skynet. Love that image outside the window. Obviously, it's all CGI. Looks really great. And you can have Catherine Brewster in this movie if you do a rewrite of her from page 1. Using that same example where you take her in this scene where she's the most interesting, where her father is dying, and every scene she's in, give her a stronger journey and make it focus more on her father. The interesting part about Catherine Brewster is that her father is the one that pushes the button, literally, right? We've always been scared of that mythical urban legend, the button that's going to end the world. Well, he actually gave the authority to push the button, which gave Skynet control of everything. That's pretty amazing. And that would have been an even more powerful territory to explore. Why not have these moments where we see Catherine Brewster's father, General Brewster, I'm just going to call him General Brewster, where he maybe really believes in Skynet. He believes that the human element should be taken out of the decision making when it comes to war because there's too much greed and self-interest, and then a machine, AI computer, is going to make decisions based on logic and the right thing. It would have been great to have had moments where he's saying, you know, honey, this program's really going to change everything. And maybe she doesn't care. Maybe she's just about, oh, I just want to get married and do my job and continue to live my life. And his argument would be, well, I'm preserving that life, that there's threats in this world. Explore that. And that would be just another level on top of this whole thing of interconnectivity, you know, the commentary on our society. Sci-fi movies were made for that. Sci-fi movies are all about taking today's issues and putting another type of costume on them, painting them, covering them up a little bit, kind of tricking us, the audience, making us say, okay, well, they're not talking about us. And then at the end of whatever, whether it's Twilight Zone or Star Trek or Outer Limits, at the end of the episode, you realize, wow, that was all about our contemporary society. That's where sci-fi truly lives, and that's the power. It's not about the effects and the spaceships and all that stuff. It's about the people. Again, Star Wars works because it was about Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Princess Leia and Darth Vader, the people and their struggles. This battle between the T-XXX and the T-800, between Arnold, the hottie, and Arnold, is decent. It started a few minutes ago. I'm about an hour and 20 minutes into the film. That's awesome. I love that she breaks out the flamethrower, because of course we have to see Arnold's metallic face. It's a tradition in the Terminator world. But how many times can this guy push this button that makes him think, okay, I have another life? Why don't they rename the T-800, why don't they rename Arnold Toonsis? If you don't know the reference, Saturday Night Live, back in the early 90s, late 80s, used to have this character called Toonsis, the driving cat. And the gimmick was that it's just a cat, obviously a puppet, who's driving a car, and everyone's like, oh, this cat can really drive. This cat really knows what he's doing. And at the end of the sketch, it would always drive the car off of the cliff and everyone would die and it would blow up. So it was a nice little gag. And when Terminator 2 came out, they did Toonsis, kind of the Terminator version, a robot cat, driving Linda Hamilton, and Phil Hartman was playing the T-800, and Edward Furlong, so he's kind of driving them along, and he gets his face ripped, and half of the cat's face is a robot, so it was pretty funny. But they can call, long story short, they can call Arnold here Toonsis because it's a cat with 9 lives. Earlier, the T-XXX shot like that energy pulse into his chest, and he was disabled, but you know what? I have multiple cores, so why don't I just take out this core? It'll make a cool nuclear explosion in the desert, and I have another one. And now, my head has been ripped off by the T-XXX, but yet I'll put it back on, and I will be back. Or no, here, in this case, I think the T-XXX reprograms him, right? She kind of repairs him to trick the T-800 into killing John Connor. Oh boy, go figure. And here's the moment where Catherine Brewster shows that she's going to be his second in command, right? She picks up the gun and destroys the mini hunter-killer plane. It would have been great if John Connor would have been a little more aggressive. Maybe he, like Kyle Reese, would be pushing her. Kyle Reese is a great character in the first movie because he's very active, very aggressive, and he's forcing Sarah Connor to become the soldier that she's going to be. So couldn't the same thing be done here, where John Connor is maybe taking on that role of, this is what my mother did to me in the second movie, and in between the first and the second movie, she forced me to be kind of a warrior, so I'm going to force Catherine Brewster to be a warrior. It would have been great. But that would have required character development and exploration of the story. And it would have required a couple more rewrites so everything makes sense. Not only on a story structure level, but on an emotional character thematic level. An hour and 24 minutes into the movie, where we have this magnetic field kind of generator. And it's perfect because we've never seen it in a Terminator movie. Obviously, the Terminator, the T-XXX, would be stuck to it. Now, this is the point you kind of have her, so why not just make sure she gets destroyed? I always hate it in movies, especially like horror movies, where the main character or characters see that the opponent, the villain, looks like they're about to die, and they leave. They're like, oh, that's good enough. Time to take off. No, it's not good enough. You got to make sure, because of course they're going to come back. Just do what you would do in real life. Keep it honest, man. Keep it real. And we'll be engaged. We won't go back later and think, oh, that wouldn't have happened. That magnetic field generator is very much a convenience kind of thing, just like, we got to call it out. In T1 and T2, when you're writing anything, of course there's going to be like this element of writer's convenience, right? Where at the end of the first Terminator, she just happens to crawl through the press, which she pulls down and it crushes the T-800. And of course there's the truck with the liquid nitrogen that's going to freeze a liquid Terminator. oh geez, what are the chances? We're on the highway and we have a liquid T1000 following us, and it just so happens that there's a whole truck of liquid nitrogen. Same thing here, it just so happens that they're going to run through this magnetic field creator. But whatever. And we see the TXXX escape because she manages to get her cutting blade activated, even though if such a strong magnetic field were active, who knows if that thing would even respond, but it has to respond because this is a movie. This is T3, the beginning of the end. And now she's reprogrammed Arnold to make John a target, and he puts his head back on, nice and clean. Go figure, I don't know. Why would she reprogram Arnold? Wasn't Arnold against her? So she kicks off his head almost all the way. She should have just disconnected it 100%. She decides at the last moment, I'll reprogram this highly damaged Terminator so that he can take out John Connor, even though right now I'm going to go run after him. I'm going to go terminate him. So either way, I'll have to kill the T-800 in the end. But just in case, because who knows, there's already been 4 or 5 instances when I've effed up. I haven't been able to take out this wimpy human, even though I'm this advanced prototype. And I'm probably going to get stuck to some magnetic field. I can just feel it. So let's just have Terminator 800 be the one who's going to kill John. Let's talk about this moment here, because in a rewrite, this thing could have been gold. Hour and 27 minutes into the film. Arnold says, I'm a machine. And he takes John and he throws him against the car. Great line, and that's like something, if you're doing a rewrite, you're going to highlight that and say, okay, how can we build upon this? Going back to the threads we've already established, the TXXX is able to infect machines. It's a society where everything is linked via the internet, via Wi-Fi, computers are all kind of coming together. The synergy is taking place. The T-800 is just a machine. So it would be better if he wasn't necessarily infected by the TXXX in that moment when she kicks his head off. It should happen as a result of what's going on around them. That this infection, this Skynet taking control is taking place, and it is able to take control of the T-800. Now, let's ask right here, why would Arnold take control of himself? Hour and 28 minutes into the film, he can punch John Connor. In the first movie, he's punching John Connor's head off. It's a pulp of pudding right now. But for some reason, that's not set up. The T-800 decides to self-destruct or to just stop its programming. Why would it do that? It's not the same T-800 from the second movie. And there's nothing in this third movie that indicated that they activated its neural net processing chip, that it's now learning and it has free will. There's nothing that would motivate it to contradict any new programming. He says he's just a machine, and all that means is that he runs programs. If someone puts a new program in him, he's going to do what that program says. There's nothing about free will or doing the right thing and protecting life and all that kind of stuff. If he's been reprogrammed, he's going to follow it. So if you do a rewrite on the Terminator character, going backwards, you would have to establish similar things that happened in the second movie, where, okay, T-800, you now have free will. You're able to control your own programming. You can decide what you want to do. You're not just the sum of all of your code, of your ones and zeros. You have a soul. A soul is being created within you. Whatever. You can explore that level of it. Instead of having every scene with Arnold just be a repeat of the previous movies where he's saying these funny lines and dialogue we've heard before. What if he's also growing here? What if Catherine Brewster's programmed him from the future in some way because John Connor told her? Because John Connor told her, hey, when I was 13, there was this Terminator that came back and I really bonded with it and it was like my father and blah, blah, blah. So maybe she would do that so that Arnold would act in that way. Here we have the reboot, an hour and 30 minutes into the film. He's rebooting himself. Again, Toonsis comes back for life number 4. How many times can he do this? It's such a cheat. Come on, man. Cut us a break. Please. Keep it logical. Keep it real. That's all that we asked. An hour and 31 minutes in, they land the propeller plane at what looks like a military base within a mountain, so very much like a NORAD kind of thing. War games kind of feel to it, which is a great little twist and idea. It's just funny again how Arnold has to come back to life because not because it's not motivated within the moment of the story. There's no conflict or anything happening that says, okay, he's going to come back. It's the writers or the filmmakers obeying the needs of the structure, which would be, okay, there has to be a final battle between Arn and the T-XXX at the final base in the final sequence here. So he just has to come back to life. It doesn't make any sense because he doesn't know that the T-XXX is still functional and still on the way, even though he would be connected to her, right? I mean, why would he be able to reboot the nanites that reprogrammed him and that have taken control of him? Why not just make him more of a remote control sort of thing? She's there on this metallic magnetic generator and she's able to control him with her thoughts. That's what she's been doing with these other cars. She's the one that's in control, not necessarily reprogramming. Why would she take the risk of allowing something to go wrong? She's the one who's able to Wi-Fi be in control. So just take control. Just do it. Sucks. It sucks. Very frustrating because there's too many questions. If you just take the time to rewrite this and follow the threads within each character, it's going to lead itself to some great places. You just have to keep asking, would they do this? Does this make sense? Does it hold true within this universe? Again, I'll believe in the Avatar universe. I'll believe in the Chipmunks universe. They can go to high school. I don't care. Just establish it. I'll suspend my disbelief and I'll go with it. But just within the universe you establish, within the Lord of the Rings universe, if there's orcs and all these great creatures, don't throw me a curveball and all of a sudden there's a Death Star or a lightsaber. It wouldn't happen. So just keep it real to what you've created. We can see this coming for about 20 to 25 minutes. This film has had some originality and unpredictability. We all know that this final battle's coming. Way too CGI. This is a great image of the T-800. Arnold is very CGI'd here. Oh boy. Oh boy. Hour, 33 minutes, 40 something seconds. Arnold says, "I'm back." I know you are, and I'm a little bit sad. Oh, I do like that line though. That's basically a rip from Predator. Go now! John Connor, get to the chopper, go! Get under this huge door, go! I'm here! The T-XXX is basically recreating the T-800 from movie number 1, where it has no legs and it's just crawling after Sarah Connor. The exact same thing is going to happen here, and we're back to a huge door, which is virtually the same thing as the metallic press, and the T-XXX has grabbed John Connor's leg, much like Sarah Connor's leg at the end of the first film. And heroically, Arnold will sacrifice himself to save John Connor and give humanity a chance. It would have been better if Arnold would have continued to have some sort of character growth and change. Oh, this is even worse. Why do the face thing? That's what happened at the end of the second movie where you had the T-1000 with the different faces of the people that he's become. Decent final line by Arnold. We have the explosion. Okay, we can buy it, but again, we don't feel anything. It's like, okay, it was supposed to happen that way. It's by numbers. Okay, 1 and 2 and 3. Yeah, step by step, I got it. But it hasn't meant anything for anybody. What has happened here is we basically have watched a Discovery Channel, History Channel recap of here's how Skynet took over the world, narrated by Morgan Freeman. The narration of events isn't as important as the people within the situations of those events. If we want to just breeze over the facts, read a history book. But if you want to experience it, that's where you go to a drama. And what does it mean for John Connor, Catherine Brewster, Arnold, General Brewster, all the people involved so far? We don't know because that's not what the focus was here. This is a competently made film. It's definitely crafted well enough. The story moves forward, but unfortunately the script could have used the rewrites mentioned, with the focus being on the journey of John Connor, with the focus shifting more towards Skynet about to go live. Give us more scenes with General Brewster, with Catherine Brewster and John Connor. And the ultimate question is, does the T-800, does Schwarzenegger need to be back for this film? Is there a way that he could have been in this movie without being the T-800? Maybe he could have been a scientist working with General Brewster to design various robots, and who would later be the basis for the design of the T-800. And then he would serve kind of like a Miles Bennett Dyson character, and you can have John Connor informing him of the future. John Connor's shocked to see that Catherine Brewster's connected to her dad, who's connected to Skynet, and Skynet still exists. You could have had a whole lot of reactions from that. Could have really been interesting if the focus of this movie was the last 40 minutes and you expand on that backwards. Get rid of that cliche beginning with the same structure of bad Terminator, good Terminator arrives, they both race towards their objective, they fight, and they go towards stopping Skynet. We've seen it before. Hour and 38 minutes into the movie, I love this twist. This is my third favorite moment of the movie, where we learn where General Brewster faked them out, faked us all out. He sent them somewhere where they would be protected instead of somewhere where they could stop Skynet, because as John Connor is going to say here, there is no stopping Skynet. It doesn't exist in one location anymore. It is everywhere. So you can have this classic scene where you put explosives to it and destroy it. Great twist. Ballsiest moment of the movie. Most courageous moment of the movie. Part of me feels like this was part of some script that was written by like the Hollywood renegade who had like this great idea for this and said this would make a great movie. Then it fell into the hands of the profiteers who are like, no, we just want to give them kind of the same thing, just give the audience what they're used to, but we'll keep this cool ending because it's a nice little setup. Really well done. In terms of story and structure, the best moment of the movie for me. Love this here where Connor is on the microphone talking with the other military personnel. We have the hands being held, and there's a great close-up there of John's face as he realizes we're here, it's about to start. I just wish that this movie would have opened as it did with John's face, and now we close with him on the verge of becoming the leader, and that journey in between. I wish it would have been a little bit clearer, a little more interesting, a little more focused on the internal than the external, than just following the T-800 around and saying, okay, we'll do whatever you do, we're going to end up here, and it's not going to be very interesting for any of us. Not enough confession cam moments that deal with John Connor's inner struggle, relying too much on things that have worked in the first two films. Love this final image here, hour and 41 minutes into the film, and we see the bombs launched. Awesome shot from outer space here as Skynet is launching the missiles. Magnificent. Really great visual. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. There's moments of genius here. But the trick is to base it in the character. We have his narration closing out the movie and opening the movie. This is basically a function of window charactering or confession camming, where the narration serves as a way for us to have access to the inner workings of John Connor. Continue that in between. We have it at the end and the beginning. Give us more John Connor in the middle. This is his journey. But unfortunately, this film fails to focus on it. Great visuals to close it out. Loved it. Could have been a really great addition, even though James Cameron was not involved. You have a feeling that if he was, it would have been a better film because he's the one that's created these characters. These are his children, his babies, so he can envision where he wants them to go. And he has a track record of taking it to new places, much like Ripley in Aliens versus Alien, where he allowed the struggle of the first movie for her, or just the trauma of the first movie, to become a major issue for her in the second one. Aliens, really, go back and watch Aliens and pay attention to Ripley's reactions in all the scenes. Such an emotional performance, which is why she was nominated for an Oscar. Sigourney Weaver, very well done. Hour and 43 minutes, credits are already rolling. Didn't really get a chance to talk about a lot of the external aspects of surrounding Terminator at this time. As was said, this was the last major film for Schwarzenegger before he became elected as governor of California. Went off on a decent note. He could have really went off with a bang. Could have really gone off holding his head high saying, yeah, Terminator 3, just as good as T2. Oh, what could have been. So T3 made because 2003 was really starting to become the peak, 2004 or 5, of this tentpole mentality of whatever has been popular in the past. Let's bring the sequels back. Let's start rebooting, remaking, because there's money to be made here. Special effects are great, so we can do justice to images that haven't been able to be fully realized in the past. I do love the image of Arnold getting out of the copter at the end of this movie, and he's even more ripped away than he has been in the past. It totally looks fake, but it's just still a cool image. Very reminiscent of the comic books, the Dark Horse Terminator comics that I read a lot after the second Terminator. So there we go. Let me know what you think. Do you agree, disagree? Some more ideas? What would you have liked to have seen in Terminator 3? If you love Terminator 3 and you think I'm effing crazy, defend your movie passion. Shoot me an email, put some comments in the section below. Let me know what you think. Let's make this a discussion. I'm not going to sit here and say I know every single thing about filmmaking and this is how it has to be. It's just more observations of, you know what, when you look at screenplay structure, when you look at movies that have worked for people in the past and what we connect to, I'm a big believer that it's character journey and that structure is secondary to what's going on within the characters that we're watching. So try to use the Terminator movies as examples because obviously if you're watching this movie you've seen the other two, and the other two are definitely regarded as high quality sci-fi action stories. So if those are the gold standard, this becomes the fool's gold of the series, unfortunately, and it doesn't get any better with T4. Terminator Salvation does not offer us salvation at all. It's Terminator Apocalypse, movie apocalypse, continuing the beginning of the end. But that'll be the next movie night. Come back, check it out. 2 more hours of discussing a great universe that has recently become disrespected for the reasons previously mentioned. So for now, thanks for hanging out and listening. Hopefully this has been fun, a little educational, a little entertaining, a mix of all that. And let me know what you think. And until next time, choose your movies wisely because StoryCorp gives us more of what we pay for. And as always,
long live good movies!